Good morning. So, today we're looking to. What are we looking to do? Well, first thing, I would like to be able to load some of the same configs that not config, I guess. Maybe config. So, now, when starting up the VFS, it would be nice to have some other common things. Here. So at this point, it's our entry point. What do we do for logging? What do we do for telemetry, metrics, anything like that? Well, at the moment, as you can see, I just copied over some code from one of the other crates. But I would like telemetry to be initialized and to have some environmental configs be loaded. Now I know that this is not going to load command line args, right? Something like arg debug. We would not be able to do this. So we're a shared library. However, we still need to be able to load some sort of configuration. So we're left with environment variables. A common config name may be pointed to by an environment variable. Else, I kind of like the environment variable idea, pointing to a config file. That's kind of nice. I do want the tracer initialized though, which means we need telemetry settings. Yeah. That, and we cannot use the same sort of try here. We return an int, specifically a cint. All right. So we get the service info. Pass that to new. This isn't going to work. And then we do this. Great. We have to fix this piece here. I'm going to pour some tea real quick. Got my thermos. And it's on tight. what should we do? And we're calling this CLI. Is CLI accurate? Because it does help with these pieces here. Maybe we break this in half. So here's CLI in the buyer crate. We have arguments, we have our config as arguments, config as our generic parameters. We do not want this section here. However, we may want to be able to generate a config still. So it feels like from about there down, this is something else. We have CLI, we have lib. Lib has a service info. Okay. Maybe we have a mod config. And then we move some of the CLI bits into it. Arguments can stay here. Or can they? These would be command line arguments. So yes, I think they should stay here. Oh, that tea is hot. All right. So in this case, we have our config. But what about args? Arg command. Yeah, we merge that here. Our command get arguments. Okay. So here we load the config from arg matches. And these are the arguments that we pass here. Interesting. So we could, let's see, here we have our config, environment overrides. Let's see, what did merge do? Merge. Come on, merge. Figment. Join, add join. Is that missing a D? Merge, add merge. Maybe not. Join and add join prefer existing values, while merge and add merge prefer later values. Oh, interesting. The add strategies additionally concatenate conflicting arrays. Okay. So we're using merge. So the arguments first, override by config, overrided by environment. It almost feels like these two should be swapped. However, We do not want to override with defaults, do we? No. All right. So here we extract a config, which is of type C. I don't even know if this works for arguments. I guess it would only work if things were optional in the config file. It's fine. So we could pass in some sort of default, like the defaults here. Let's create some other little struct real quick. Then we'll move it. Config. Boom. Okay. I want mostly one of these. There we have our config C. Okay. Let's get rid of this for a minute. So we take a new config, or we take a config from something else. Let's just give it a funny name for now. So you call this function the mystery function. Ah, yes, one of the cases where you cannot use self because your type is parameterized. Wait, yes. Okay, here. Can you? Hmm, you can. All right, I was wrong. So we have our config. However, we need some of this code. We do not want args. We want config though. So in this case, we want to load from a file. We want a file name. This is generating a config. So we want some sort of config file. So we have our config file. So anything that can go into a path buff, we take there. Now, should we have the ability to still create a config file? This block here. I think so. What is this saying? Config path stir. Use config option ID. Ah, okay. Use config option ID. So if the path was passed in, then we load that toml file. Got it. We need at least that. env prefix we'll need here as well. Is that simply a stir? Yes. Hmm. All right. Then we also need some defaults. Config file, env prefix. We need some sort of default value. In the 2024 edition, the requirement, what does this mean? Hmm. I don't see it. This year, deserialized with a left hand? But I thought this has like, it looks like the never type. This is coming from Figment and requires something that is serialized. What is serialized? It's a struct. It takes defaults from some value t. A t that does what? Hmm. It's for every type T. Well, maybe that's why it doesn't work on 2024, because the never type is introduced. Now, in this case, here we were using args, which was just A, and it has deserialize, parser, serialize, also has parser, but that's not from Figment, is it? No, that's from Clap. Let's say that we also want some default values, and that's some type. What does this take? Something that implements provider. Okay. We'll just take that. Somebody can pass in whatever they want there. Hmm. Where does provider come from? Figment? Okay. Oops. Cannot find D in the scope. Yes, okay. All right. Oh, it's provider. Hmm. Let's close that. Okay. So then somebody passes in a provider. We give it the default values. Fig path stir. I think this is just config file. Then we have our prefix. Great. Okay. Hmm. Fallback being unit. Interesting. Let's check on that. I wonder if they know. Huh. Closed. Hey, Mustafa, how are you? Yeah, thanks for stopping in. Yeah, yesterday was a kicker, but today's going pretty well. Still think I'm getting over something. Yeah, hope you have a wonderful day as well. 2 years ago. Hmm. Feels like it needs to be updated. Pull requests? Oh, interesting. Wait, which one's the bad one? Where was it? No, reddit.com/r/rust. Here. Yes. Some of his most popular crits. Sorry, YAML. Let's double check. Assert a YML crit is a fork of a high quality but unmaintained library. In the fork, the AI has taken initiative to add a big heap of stuff that is variously complete nonsense. Okay. All right. Integer indexing. Man, I like this Figment crate, but I don't like that it's not maintained. 4 months ago though. Maybe it is. Let's see, pull requests. Closed. What just went in? Hmm. Who are the crate owners? Used by contributors. Hey, Lumicode, how you doing? How are you? Hmm. How does one find the owners of a crate? Insights? Discussions? I guess Sergio. It's because it's here. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I got some sleep last night, which is good. Okay. Well, I was thinking about maybe looking into this unit or the never type fallback. I guess we can do that later. Let's come back. All right, so we have our mystery function. Okay, it does some things. We get this fallback warning. All right, create config file. Yep, we didn't get to that yet. Or maybe we just have a create config file function. I like that better. Let's call it config path because that's what it is. Result of unit or error. Are we doing that here? All right. No. In this case, if we were told to generate a config file, we generate and exit. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. And config file path. We need a config. Okay. I think for this, we'll do and pull into path. That way we have one generic config, and that can be passed in. Right. Was it create config file? Config file path stir. Okay. This looks correct. Okay, here. What is type C? It's a docu document. Does it need to be deserialized as well? I don't think so. Okay. No. um, and our error here, figment error. Maybe not here. I want this in a different place. Well, let's move it. Not there. Let's try here. Fig. There we go. Extract to your own crate, please. Or module. Wow. Yeah, that's an enum. Create an error type. Snafu. Derive that. Good. Okay. What kind of error would this be if we cannot write to a config file? How about a Hmm. Source is probably standard IO error. Guessing. Well, it's not quite a guess. Let's also have a path here. Now, path and path buff, they don't typically impl display. Let's add a path. Mismatch types. Oh, open telemetry context. No, goodness, no. That's wrong. Yeah, this one. Okay. So now we can create the config file. Let's go back to CLI. This is missing. Create config. We don't have tracing set up by this point. I think we just have to write the error. The document type, yes. Turbofish. All right, Turbofish, you got that. All right, so that should work. Now we can separate this and do something similar in the lib side of the house. Now, for the bottom half of this file, we have our mystery function, default values. So this would be coming off of some config or some provider. We have the environmental overrides. maybe let's put these in the order that they'll be used. We don't need that. Default values, config, path, environment. Okay. The config file type is not here. Do we need that? Because config here. There, now it knows the type. Config is type C. Great. Figment snafu. Yeah. Figment, toml, yeah, from the provider section. Figment, provider, toml. Same thing. Oh, the trait's not available. Enter. Okay, so what does this do? We load a config. Okay, not bad. Can we use that from CLI? Here, we're doing the same thing. So we have our args. These are the defaults. Hmm. Did I call it mystery? We have args. Config path. Let's see. Config path string. Oops. And that was the environment prefix. Okay, there we have our environment prefix. Good. Let's do that. That's private. Let's fix that. All right. args does not implement provider because it needs to be a reference to args. So we borrow that. Really? Oh, that's right. No, we need the serialized defaults. All right. So now we have that. That already exists in config, yes, yes. Now we just have that there. Mystery still needs to be replaced. Maybe that's just a new. I didn't think it was going to be a new. Okay. So this is loading from the command line. Fine. Here, create the config file. Right. Get our command line arguments. Load them as defaults. Merge them into our config. Okay. I'm not sure I like this here. I feel like exiting should be the responsibility of like the CLI, but maybe not the lib. So for lib, maybe we do return a result here. So a result to that. Okay, one of these. And this here. Let's put this back in CLI. Okay, so that's going to be a result now. Just let's decompose this some other way. There, config.config. And for error, there we go. Config here. If there's an error, we just return it. Okay, so now the library should be able to use this code to generate a config file and to load a config file with default values and an env prefix. So we can load our config values from the environment. What if we make config file or the config file portion optional? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Come on. Just give me my branch arms. Fine. Config file at this point is a summer. None. Oh, this should be a config path. There we go. And from the environment. This could be optional as well, but if you don't want something, you could just put garbage or nothing. Say merge goes there. Okay, so those now being optional. I feel like we should provide a safe version of no options. Kind of like no arguments, no defaults. Oops. No, not lib. I want config. There it is. Provider. Oh, that's not going to work. Right, implemented by configuration source providers. Okay, why don't we just implement this? And let's clean this up too. Oh wait, are there errors? There are. And we'll just return empty versions of this. Okay, so that, in case somebody doesn't want to pass that in, we're not going to make that optional because you have to provide a type. C is the config, which is a little silly. I mean, we have to specify C for some sort of configuration. I guess you need that even if you want to load from the environment. Okay, that's okay. Seems fine. Seems fine. Oops, what I do? Seems to have worked. All right, now, where is buyer? Okay, it's pointing to my local version. Great. Let's go back to VFS, lib. Now we don't want CLI, we want config now. Ah, yes. Oh, we do not have to pass service info here. There's three things. The defaults, which let's just have no defaults at the moment. And then the path, whatever. Okay. Expected a comma. Oh, there we go. Buyer config, no defaults. Yes. All right. So this is saying that trait bounds were not satisfied. Our settings object does not implement, deserialize, or document. Really? Oh, well, we don't have Doku or Serday. Okay, now we have Doku and Serday. Now, this is just some trash I picked up from another crate. Let's just comment this out for a moment. Actually, the mutation FIFO could be useful. Let's leave that one. That's what we communicate to Reverb with. Okay, we have our mutation FIFO set to something. It needs to be kind of a well-known path. Yeah. Good. We will override that via something. Don't know yet. But now that should give us telemetry setup. CLI, let's rename that. Oh, that's right. And these need to be, oh, that's right. We could have a none here. A no. Okay. Oh, is that a result? This is a result. Yes. Okay. So given that this is a result there, hold on. I want to go back to there. What do we do on an error here? something like this. And we give it back. Good. Ah, should probably be a match. Okay, config. Let's just return config. There we go. Config, config. Great. Then we initialize telemetry using this. The telemetry settings. See, I don't think we need a tracer. Like our trace settings here. We have an optional endpoint. Okay. Okay. If we don't provide it, it won't start up the trace bits, which is fine. But it will start up the the command line logging if we want that with our logging providers. All right, so as long as we have those disabled, we should be fine. We need to hold on to that though. I don't think so. Maybe. Let's see. We have to keep it from being dropped. Who knows? However, if there is a problem starting telemetry, let's do something similar. Yeah, there we go. Type annotations needed. Really? 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 Okay. Why can't it find these? I'm trying to jump to the definition. I know it takes more than one. It's fine. Really? Oh, I'm in the wrong project. Here, we're in config. How about we do into option of pathway? Oh, yeah. No, go full screen. Thank you. And then, would it be happier with that? So we do an into there. Config file at that point. Unknown type. Yeah, I get that. Type annotations needed. Here. What is the type here? It's unknown. It should be path buff, right? Into an option path buff. Ah, I don't think we need that. Let's come back to CLI. Option to path buff for string is not satisfied. Oh, boo-hoo. Fine. There I go, trying to be clever. Will that not work here? So we have a stir, and this should be, as it was, some straight bound option path buff from option string is not satisfied. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, that's not as exciting. I don't like that interface. Let's just remove P altogether. So now we just have D and E. All right. So that can just be intoed by the caller, whatever they have. Do we need to own it though? Can it just be a path? size for that, not at compile time. Oh, what does file want? As rough path. Okay. Nice. Okay. CLI config lib. Let's go back to config. And here is as rough path. Good. Option. Fine. Let's come back to reverb. Let's remove our types here. I just provided none. Yes. All right. I don't like that. It feels like if you're not providing a path, you're being penalized here. Like you have to pass something. And what do you pass? I know that stir works. All right, let's come back to that. Let's just think about it. Okay, so we have our telemetry. We can get rid of trace. Is anybody else calling trace init? Cluster. Okay, these two don't care. Lib for raft. Care a little bit. Oh, but that's only in test. That can go away. And then where we are here, I want to get rid of this function. Is this the end of the trace? It is. Oh, happy day. Okay. Let's get rid of trace. Bye bye, trace. Close that buffer. Get rid of that. Now we have tracing. Boom. That'll go to the command line. And Now that tracing is initialized, we have our config. We have to load our config to get telemetry. Okay, that one's fine. And this here at the bottom is the first place where we can use that. Great. And for tracing error, tracing info, tracing trace. Okay, that feels better. Yes, that's right. That's right. That goes away. That goes away. VFS. On. Raft. That goes. Examples. Bye bye. It's already commented. Cluster. Okay, I think those are commented out anyways. Looks like it's going to be fine. Time for tea. Oh, cannot infer type. 103, huh? Wait. VFS 103. VFS. Something like that. Really? You can't infer this? Type annotations needed. Cannot infer type. This is I32. Here it says it's a U32, but for whatever reason, the interface on these functions is returning C int, which is, I believe, I32. Let's go look. All right. Yeah, I32. Almost always be I32. C standard technically only requires that this type be a signed integer. Okay. So it's signed. I guess we could cast it as that. But I'm never going to compile on those esoteric systems. Okay. Are you happy now? Oh, and thank you for the follow. There we go. Okay. Let's give this a run. Just run. We have TiKV and Iggy running. Did we change to TCP for Iggy? Quick. Okay. There. There we go. Oh, really? TCP done with server address. It's right there. Iggy client builder with TCP that returns a TCP client builder. Iggy client, clont. That's not going to work. With server address. You, you're messing with me, Rust. What's going on? With server address. And server address here is a string. Here, it's also a string. It's saying that it doesn't exist on that. Really? I was just calling out with server name. Okay. I misread that. Yeah. Okay. Nope. Right there in front of me. Server name goes away. Stream settings. We can get rid of server name. Bye bye now. That goes away. That goes away. Good. That goes away. Okay. So now it's with TCP only. Yeah. Ollie Allen. Igadzo. Thank you for the follows. I didn't even look at the issue. Okay. See if it happens again. And we're down. All right. Got some crashing going on here. App. Figment error. Lovely. Oh, look, our new code. It's being executed. String default metadata none path. Error loading reverb VFS configuration. Figment error. Source. Error tag. Default profile. Oh, missing field application. Really? It is required, isn't it? How do we provide that? So The issue is, if we come back to VFS lib, is it here? We're telling it that it needs to load a settings object. This isn't optional. Telemetry is not optional. Right? Telemetry has a default though, which is nice. Inside of application, oh wait, application has a default? Or not using this object for the default. That's right, we're using the no defaults. Could we use settings for our defaults? Because it would have to implement, what is it, provider? Oh, we need to have an instance of settings, of course. That's not going to work. And then it would have to implement provider. I was just stretching. Still a bit early for me. All right, pour some more tea. All right. Blistering hot tea. Delicious. So in this case, let's see. We're trying to combine data from multiple places, right? And the whole point of Buyer is to make it easy to do things. So kind of a opinionated library. Now, this doesn't feel easy. We've got this here. Is that still needed? Oops, too far. Yeah, still there. So that's still needed. Now defaults non. This doesn't feel right. I think it's these defaults I don't really like. I think mostly. Okay, so I don't like, I'm okay with like the no defaults object here. What I don't like is that it can be difficult to set up. Right? What do you want defaults for? Well, your config file, right? This is a separate configuration than a separate use case than the CLI use case, where you have command line arguments. So if we go to, let's say, data plane, we'll look at this. Let's see, where is it? Mutation. Oh, it's in init. Okay. In this case, we actually don't use the arguments. See, A is no arguments, and no arguments implements clap parser, right? And then we use the arguments, wherever it is, here, serialized defaults, this guy. And is this for every type? Like, why aren't we just taking a type T if every type T is supported? What does this do from serialized value P? So value is T. Profile. Yep, that's the default profile. And this implements provider. Oh, interesting. So we're getting metadata. What is this? This is metadata wants a name and a source. Okay. And then data. We end up creating this map, right? Into dictionary. Okay. So we're serializing something. Self.value. And that's our type, right? Yeah. Or T is serialize. Can you serialize nothing? Fascinating. Oh, you serialize for any T serialize. Okay. So really, T just needs to be serialized. Yeah. And the constraint is that provider only works for T that's serialized. Okay, that's what I was looking for earlier. This is the type constraint. So we could take something that a type that implements serialize and get the defaults for it. So let's close that. Let's rethink. Let's rethink this. So config. What? This file is not included. Really? Ah, Rust. Tricky, tricky. Create config file, don't care. That one's fine. No defaults? We're rethinking this because our provider might not need a provider. So in this case, default values, D is anything that is not provider, but implements serialize. Okay, now we go back to CLI and take this here. Actually, it's okay. So we have serialized import, yes. Args, no, those are default values. Thank you. That I don't like that. This is some type T. So this is serialized plus default. Hmm. What if you don't want it to implement default? So serialized defaults. Takes our type T, but what was T? T over here was args. Args comes from pulling out these matches. And in this case, A implements parser. Yeah, parser, serialize, and deserialize. Okay. So we have D, where D implements serialize. Pigment mo. Trait provider is not implemented. Provider is implemented for anything that implements serialize. Library authors. Okay. Hmm. Or we do this. Let's say this structure has the following properties. The library provides a config structure. Okay. Users can completely customize configuration via their own provider. Library config is a provider for composability. Fine. Oh, interesting. Config from config figment. Hmm. Fascinating. I don't know that it entirely applies, as I'm like halfway between application and library. I'm providing a library for application authors and kind of for, I don't know, shared libraries, which is kind of a weird case, isn't it? Could still do this. I think Figment here is our loader, isn't it? What's Figment? Struct. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that was interesting. But where were we? Here. New config. Provider is not implemented. For D, does it need to be? So we get a default. What is this type? This is serialized D. And serialized doesn't implement the, well, it does implement provider. Let's see, why isn't this picking it up? So we implement serialized, so provider should be there. No. No to that. Required for borrow D to implement provider. I disagree again. Or serialized T, where's T? And serialized T doesn't have a constraint on T. So that's for all types. All right, we'll get this. We'll get this. So that's for all types T. And here we constrain it to all types T that implement serialize. Is this not the same serialize? No, it's Saturday serialize. This is Saturday serialize. Okay. And let's see, args was what? A and A. Parser serialize and deserialize. Do you think it needs deserialize somehow? Or parser? No, that's from clap. Why would clap have that? Or be influencing figment? Hmm. From arg matches mute. So if we go this route, it will mean that everything that you want to use for defaults has to implement serialize, which is okay. It could be something separate from config path. Right? So you just need some object that's serializable. All right, let's try to push this error further back. Let's do docs new, and here we'll have box 9 provider. I mean, here we have default values. I'm using the wrong thing. Oh my goodness. Defaults. It doesn't need to be boxed anymore. And let's try it now. Now it works. If, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now in this case, config here, we do not need that. We can pass args in. Guess this could be a reference. And then we no longer need that there. Okay. Is this any better Now we can take anything that's serializable as defaults. It doesn't even have to be the same type as the config, because Figment is going to merge them into a config type. Okay. So what would that mean for, so over here, we have settings. Settings is deserializable. Come on, pick up the changes. Thank you. And now we can just give anything as a set of defaults. In this case, I guess we could say no defaults should implement serializable. I got rid of no defaults. Reference to unit. Thank you. Okay. No. We could have like a new with defaults, new without defaults, something like that. I still don't like the stir bit. I don't like this here. Let's make sure we don't have to do that. It's saying something off to the right. Consider specifying generic argument. No, we don't want that. So what am I really trying to do, right? The goal is to create a config object that has settings as its config. We do not want to load it from file. Why not just have different versions of this function? In this case, we just want to load it from the environment. So we were trying to pass none here, but that's not, I don't know. The more you look at it, the less attractive it is, isn't it? Yeah, I could see the setting bit, right? So we could have some struct defaults. We could have something like that that doesn't derive on default and maybe debug, whatever. Okay. And that could be passed in. Oh, maybe we should just require that it implements default and serialize. And then you could have, values that are overridden there. That's not bad. I like the use of default because we're going to use it for defaults. Otherwise, we were forcing somebody to create one of these, right? Just to pass it in instead of us creating it here. Okay. No idea. So I absolutely love that. Let's copy that. We're going to go back to having no defaults. Okay. Default serialized debug. That's fine. So we have our config. We have default values that we'll have to pass in here, where defaults impulse, well, default and serialize. I do not believe we need debug on this. Okay. Yeah, get it. It's conflicting. Let's remove it here. We no longer pass that in. We create one. Oops, come on. Okay, we take a default. And we want this to default to no defaults. The type parameter D is not constrained by the impl trait, self type, or predicates. Okay, so no. We do have to put that on the function. In this case, D equals no defaults. Ah, they're only allowed on struct. Boo. Fine, we could use phantom type. It's fine. Let's put that back. Fine. D there. Phantom data, D. Uh, point const T. All right. So now we have our defaults. They're specified after the config value if you want them. Otherwise, you get the no defaults. That seems nicer. So we could pass them here if we wanted to. Right, that wouldn't be passed there. Oops. Okay, only two values, good. But what about none? What are we doing with, wait, why is it happy now? If you do not provide a path, so these things are both optional. Missing field defaults, yes. How do you create a phantom data? Just phantom data. Okay, good. And we've got about 5 more minutes here. Let's see. I am surprised that it's okay. Something seems off. Oh, because it's not compiling. Because we didn't fix the other location. Ah. Because in this case, we want to pass in defaults. Okay. Maybe we have like a new with defaults or new something else. I feel like I'm trying to shove too much into this function. Like the variance, there's already some variance. Feels like at the very bottom of this is a function that takes three different pieces of config. And because in this case, args possible here that an arg doesn't get completely built. These were optional. Let's so if it's none, we do that. If it's something, we just use it. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. That's gonna be a yeah. Can't do that. Oh, it's serialized. That's right. Okay. So really this should be new merge defaults here, one or the other. So we merge that or merge this, and then we get rid of that. D provider. Oh, this also needs serialized oh, well, it's serialized defaults for both of them. Okay, let's go back. It's really, this one should be serialized defaults. It's an option already. It's a reference already. Creates a temporary. We could construct one regardless. Just throw it away. So we have default values, we have defaults. Not confusing at all. Okay. And then maybe, just maybe, we have here some. Default is not satisfied for A, as A doesn't require default. Should it? No. No, it shouldn't. All right, I'll have to think a bit more on this. I have to run though. Let's see, who shall I raid today? Nobody's streaming Rust? Oh, 'tis a sad day. Oh, we're gonna raid Rock Knight Studios. All right, y'all. Till next time. Take care.